right now back to Thunder. Our two brothers all the way from Canada, up in the area of Red Deer, Alberta, Canada. David and Drew Watson in the Yellow Thunder. Now from the high-tech airplanes of Walter Extra and Bob Freeman, we're going to completely change things and go back to the late 1930s. The airplane they're flying is built by North American, designed by North American back in the late 30s. It was an advanced trainer ready for World War II. It was known by three different names. The Army Air Corps called it the Texan because many of them were built at an assembly plant in Dallas, Texas. The Navy used the same airplane, called it the SNJ. And the Commonwealth countries, the United Kingdom, New Zealand, Australia, and Canada called it the Harvard, after that higher institution of learning. It is a most amazing airplane with a production run on all different models and variations of that aircraft into the 20,000 category if you read all the history books. So here comes the brothers. A 5,000-pound airplane is not nimble, but these two brothers, steeped in aviation by their family, flying aircraft that have been in the family for decades, served in the Canadian military at CFB Penhold in Red Deer, Alberta. Now in the lead is brother David, and off on the wingtip is brother Drew. Now how you can tell them apart? Well, David has
already such a great show.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, Laura. I'm excited, and we've got another great guest.
Oh, we do. Okay, so Mark Erickson, who is the program manager for Hill's K-12 STEM outreach program, which of course helps educate students, teachers, counselors, parents on the many STEM career opportunities available at Hill Air Force Base, and it also inspires students to pursue those STEM careers. He has also brought millions of dollars in funding to Utah over the years to benefit hundreds of STEM programs. Hill STEM outreach partners with industry, government, nonprofits, higher education, K-12 education to compound the program's impact. And that's really what we're trying to do, is reach those kids. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning. Let's talk about the STEM program, because that's really what we're trying to do, is to funnel these kids through these types of programs so they can come out with careers like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So did you want me to answer the first one or just kind of talk to the overall program?
You can answer whatever you want.
Okay, well, so the K-12 STEM outreach program, it is focused on K-12 students. It's all about making opportunities available, because when I was a kid and a teenager, I didn't really even know about STEM careers, which we can talk about a little bit more in depth. But yeah, it's really to try to reverse that trend, make those opportunities available to everyone, especially where the Air Force is trying to reach all the minority groups, so females, minorities of all kinds, to just give them opportunities, because everybody can make it in a STEM career.
Yeah, so that's really cool. But what was it about STEM for you specifically that made you say, yeah, I think that's something I want to be involved in?
Yeah, well, I didn't recognize it until much later, but early on I liked to take things apart and figure out how things worked. I liked video games and even a little bit of hacking when I was kind of a teenager.
Really?
Yeah, just funny things like taking a save file and editing the amount of money you had in the game, and then load the game back up and I have $1 million or whatever. So, but I didn't really recognize that as STEM until when I was in college. I didn't know what I was doing. I just started taking general classes, and I took an aptitude test trying to figure out what would I be good at. And I met with a counselor, and he said, if I were going to redo my career, I would be an electrical engineer. Have you thought about that? And I was like, what is that? I had no idea. I had no idea what an electrical engineer was. And he said, well, it's challenging, it's interesting, and it pays well. And I said, that sounds great. Let's do it. And so that's kind of how I got into engineering. And again, I'm actually an electrical engineer, mostly because of that counselor who just kind of put that bug in my ear. So that's what we're trying to do with the program, is put those bugs in the kids' ears. Like, you can do it.
And how do you go about doing that specifically? Like, what do you all do?
So my program?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of what I do is actually driven by requests that come in. So I get teachers is a big one, and they say, hey, can you send an engineer to my school, to my class, to do a presentation on what they do for their job? And I've got some phenomenal volunteers. And they'll come out and they'll say, I'm a mechanical engineer. This is what I do on base. And same thing, right? You can do it too. And here's an opportunity that you may not have even thought of. And so that's a big one. I do a lot of other big events. Like this STEM City I'm just a part of that today and tomorrow. But yeah, just expos, like there's STEM Fest down at the Mountain America Expo Center. And then there's one at the Davis Conference Center. There's all kinds of things. So again, from an individual classroom all the way to big events where I have multiple volunteers, thousands of kids, kind of the whole range.
Yeah, so as you see Yellow Thunder on your screen here at the Utah Air Show, Warriors over the Wasatch. And we have Mark Erickson, the STEM Outreach Program Manager, with us. And you mentioned STEM City. What are the kind of things that parents and maybe their children can come and do while they're at STEM City?
Yeah, well, so Captain Van Vink is in charge of that, and I've just been mostly a participant getting volunteers to come help out. So I've been participating as a participant myself.
Oh, that's awesome.
What's over here? What's over
there? So
what
have you been doing then?
Yeah, so there's a cybersecurity challenge. There's some not moon rocks, but different meteorite samples. Let's see what else caught my attention today. There's some robotics. There's, just all kinds of cool stuff. Drones.
When we think about STEM, but particularly on base, what are the different roles that some people have? Maybe that, I wouldn't. You talked about electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, but what else is there that people do?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. And I should probably even preface by saying, what is STEM? Because surprisingly, some people still don't know.
It's
so
true.
Science, technology, engineering, and math. And again, I focus on the E, the engineering, because that's what I am, and that's mostly where I've been. But it's really anybody. So technicians and even mechanical. I mean, you got mechanical engineers, aerospace engineers, electrical engineers, computer scientists fall under there. And if you think about everything that it takes to run the Air Force, we've got cybersecurity, we've got jets, we've got everything. It all needs STEM-focused people. So there's lots of stuff.
You even have, meteorologists too?
Right, and again, that's kind of like the fringe. I don't think about a lot, but that totally fits, right?
Yeah, because you need to know what the weather is so you can get these jets in the air.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so my daughter is a proud graduate of Texas A&M University, a mechanical engineer. She works for the Federal Aviation Administration. So there's so many doors that can open, though, through a STEM education.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, STEM is the future. Everything we're doing is going to be more and more technology focused. You need STEM people to understand it and do it.
And it pays well. It pays well.
Like
Just
I said,
let people know that.
My counselor said, it's interesting, challenging, and it pays well. Woo! Sold.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a great point, though.
Well, it is.
Really
And that's and that's a good way to get kids drawn into it. Because my son, who is 15, said, we talk about different careers, and he's like, well, how much does that pay? Okay, so, they're interested.
Yep.
Yeah. We're inching closer towards Tora taking the skies, and that's going to be a great pyrotechnic display. But we're here with Mark Erickson, STEM Outreach Program Manager. How can people learn a little bit more about some of the opportunities you offer, or if they just want to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so on the website, hill.af.mil/STEM, and actually there's a link from the main page as well, but /STEM, I've worked with Public Affairs to get that site up there. It needs to be fleshed out a little bit more, and that's upon me. PA's done a great job. But yeah, they can go there, and the email box is in that spot. And then there's articles and stuff related to what is going on with the STEM program.
We've talked a lot about how on this base there's civilians and then there's active duty. Are you civilian?
Yes, I am a civilian. I've never been in the military. I do like short hair in military time. And thank you to everybody who has served. That hasn't been
absolutely.
me. But yeah, I am focused specifically on civilian scientists and engineer careers mostly. But yeah, I mean, the military folks, I do get a couple of volunteers here and there. That's just not my focus. But
what are some of those careers?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a great point, though. There's so many different ways that you can serve. You think of Hill and you may think of the uniform, but there's a lot of civilian opportunities here.
Yeah, and that has been my message, is because a lot of people think you have to join the military to work on the base. So my message is always, you don't have to. So not to disparage anybody who does, because I think that's great to serve, but you don't have to. You can be like me, a civilian, and just come work here like any other job and come work a STEM career.
How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing, a STEM outreach job about 2 years, but I've been on base 10.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
In what kind of role?
Mostly in the software organization, and more of a lead. I'm not the guy who's at the keyboard. So again, if you are just hardcore at the keyboard programming, great. We have tons of opportunities, hundreds actually every year for that. I found my niche more in the management and helping people succeed.
Awesome. Well, we really want to say thank you for all that you do to promote STEM education and for your service to the Air Force as a civilian. So thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I'll have to shout out to my volunteers because, again, this program, if it's just me, it's not going anywhere. It really is the volunteers that make it run.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
So we talked about a lot of different ways to serve in the United States Air Force, including active duty, Guard, and Reserve. Airman First Class Charlotte Taylor highlights ways to serve in the Air Force Reserve. Let's take a look.
The United States Air Force is a renowned organization with many moving parts. We all know how crucial our active duty service members are to the military, but what often goes forgotten is the importance of the reserves.
Air Force Reserve is special for a lot of reasons. It provides a critical role in national defense. It also provides trained personnel to support both domestic and overseas missions. It also offers individuals opportunity to serve their country while maintaining a civilian life and a civilian career. Air Force Reserve, it's kind of like a stepping stone. Once you make that determination and you want to pursue your goals, whether you're focused on personal development or career advancement or financial stability, I believe that it can definitely help you. We live in a world that's very uncertain, or maybe there's a lot of things that may be unreliable, but the Air Force Reserve is definitely something that has been reliable in my life.
I would say family, I would say friend. There's a very close friend of mine who lived in Utah, and he called me up. Down the street, there's a recruiting office for both the Navy, Army, and Air Force, and I always drive past. And then one day, I just went in because I've always wanted to be in the military, but I've not just known how or gotten the opportunity to.
If somebody came to you and said they were thinking about joining the reserves, what would you tell them?
I would say they should go for it because it will make them better. It makes them a better person all around. If you're someone who is interested in growing as a person, becoming better, you're striving for excellence, joining the military gives you the opportunity to do that. And if you're in the reserve, it's like you're getting the best of both worlds. You get to be a civilian, and then you still get to be a military member. Oh yeah, I'm loving every bit of it. Thank you.
On Tigers. It sounds wild, but we have film of it. We met some of the guys at Oshkosh years ago when they came in for that extravaganza. Eyes and cameras to your right once again. Down low this time. Continuing in the tradition of their father and grandfather in representing the great country of Canada. Yellow Thunder. David Watson, Drew Watson, and an aircraft that helped succeed in World War II by training the fighter pilots that flew the P-51s, the P-40s, the Corsairs, the P-38s, and other great aircraft. Others make their way back in. We learned a lot of things in World War I. We lost too many pilots. So in World War II, they know they had to come up with a better way, more extensive training. So what they did is set things up like, as the brothers do the split for the break, set up just like grade school, high school, and college. First you got into a primary trainer to see if you could actually fly, if you could solo, if you'd be released to fly. If you got through primary training, you went to basic training. That was like high school, a more complex airplane, more components, more radios. If you got through that training, the aircraft in the sky now flown by the Watson brothers is where you went for your college degree. If you could master the T-6, you were more than ready for all the fighter airplanes that I mentioned. In fact, nowadays, if a person, a civilian, wants to buy a Warbird aircraft like the Top Gun aircraft of World War II, his colleagues will tell him, you want to do it the right way, get trained in an airplane like the Watson brothers are flying. Either buy one, learn how to fly it and take training, or rent it, get a qualified instructor, and try to master the T-6. Because if you can master the T-6, when you get into the P-51, or the Corsair, or the Grumman aircraft, With the Lockheed fighters of World War II, you will be more than ready. You will be overtrained. And that's a testament to North American aviation. By the way, as they land, that was their first aircraft in the training environment that they designed and manufactured. They had a triple win in World War II because they also designed the P-51 Mustang, thought by many to be the best all-around fighter of World War II. They also designed and produced the B-25, one of which we have on ground display. All of those three, trainer, fighter, and bombers by North American Aviation, were successful and made a gigantic difference in World War II and even after. As the brothers taxi off the runway, so successful was the airplane that it has been recorded that 76 different nations have used the North American design successfully throughout the course of the years. Now enjoyed by warbird pilots, enjoyed by David and Drew Watson. All right, we're taking you into the training environment, courtesy of our air bosses, for scheduling us to get through the training environment, then into the actual combat, attack, and fighter aircraft. So you're going to see how we've progressed over the years, especially at the end and after World War II. So not only do we entertain you through the courtesy of the air boss and their scheduling, we in fact give you an education. Is it education or edumacation? Okay, that's it. Good enough. On behalf of all of us out-of-towners, folks, a lot of us have been in town 2 or 3 days now. Thank you for your hospitality. It's so great to get back to Ogden, Utah, to enjoy the hospitality and the majesty that you have in this part of the country. And yours truly, Danny Clisham, the host that loves you the most. I go back to about 1967. This was a layover town for us with the airline business. And in fact, we operated as civilians, flying freight for the Air Force in and out of this base at Hill Air Force Base with the 4-engine DC-7 Douglas transport aircraft. Made a lot of friends over those years. We had a lot of fun here. And I'm so happy several years ago to be back, not only to Hill Air Force Base, but our layover was in the town of Ogden, right downtown. A lot of things to see and do back in those years. Let's rock and roll. All right, now, from the piston-powered age, as you wave like crazy to the Watson brothers, give them that animation, show them that love as they taxi in front of you. Yeah, thank you. They'll give it back. Now we're going to go to after World War II. At the end of World War II, many of you know the Germans had the jets. Well, we did too, although it might have been somewhat of a secret. Lockheed had built the P-80 Shooting Star jet fighter. It actually flew combat, although it might have been clandestine, in Italy in 1945. Now that airplane built by Lockheed was not as successful as the post-war fighters built by other manufacturers. Lockheed built a fighter that had a square or perpendicular wing to the fuselage. That is, it wasn't a swept wing. That limited Lockheed's performance on the aircraft and speed. Now, it wasn't Lockheed's fault because after World War II, we captured German aeronautical data that showed both our allies, the Russians and us, about the advantage of a swept wing fighter. Swept wing to about 35 degrees. So the P-80 Shooting Star with its square or perpendicular wing in Korea was relegated to ground attack. Now, while that airplane did not have the advantage of the knowledge we had with other manufacturers after World War II, they did something great. They recovered. They stretched the fuselage 38.5 inches, put a second cockpit on, and it became one of the most famous and sought-after trainers, jet trainers in the world. is known as the T-33. Greg Collier is the guy who currently is the highest current T-33 pilot in the world today, because he flies air shows during the season almost every weekend in one of these aircraft. He's known as Wired, served in the U.S. military, got out and became an air traffic controller in Oakland, California. He's coming in over your right shoulder. Then he became a corporate pilot. There is a nice photo pass. See the wingtip tanks? Another advantage of the aircraft. And the two-place fuselage. And the speed as well. So in 1948, that trainer came out. It was an instant success. And throughout the course of the years, Lockheed had built 6,500 plus of these aircraft. The Canadians also built in their country, they call it the CT-133 Silver Star. And they built 656 of the aircraft. And the Japanese, after World War II, at Mitsubishi Enterprises, they manufactured 210 of these aircraft. Used by 40 countries, 40 allied countries around the world as a trainer. And Greg calls this the ace maker. He's known as Wired because of his days of cycling competition and Ironman competition. And overhead, with a surprise attack into the sun, he'll do the vertical roll. Great performance out of an airplane that came out, introduced tonight.
Look at that incredible plane.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so cool and so much fun being had here at the 2024 Utah Air Show. Warriors over the Wasatch. Dan Hawkins, Lori Pritchard from KSL 5 TV, and absolutely delighted to be joined now by Staff Sergeant Jeff Hanks. He's a United States Air Force recruiter. Recruiters walk people through all the steps of joining the United States Air Force. So many different paths, whether that's being enlisted airman, going through the officer route. So we're going to discuss all the options with Sergeant Hanks. But first off, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name's Sergeant Hanks. I'm from Pocatello, Idaho originally. That's where I was born and raised, went to high school there. And then I moved out to, I enlisted out of Pocatello High School and joined and got my first duty location out in McGuire Air Force Base in New Jersey. And I spent 7.5 years over there. And got the opportunity to move closer to home and working out of the Ogden office now, doing the local recruiting for that area.
And when you go and recruit, what do you tell enlistees about the military and why they should join, particularly the Air Force, because it's the better branch?
So
you didn't say it, I did.
I often tell them kind of about my story, why I joined, and a lot of it was that I know my hometown. I grew up in Idaho. I knew there was opportunity to travel, see the world, be a part of a bigger mission. And that's kind of why I went into it. I wanted to explore some new opportunities and see more of the world. So that's what kind of drew me to enlisting.
So I imagine the air show environment for a recruiter is kind of like the Super Bowl. There's so much going on. But, you know, what is kind of that first step, or can you kind of maybe walk through like a few of the opportunities that are available and things that you as an enlisted recruiter are available to talk to people about?
Right. So my goal as a recruiter is to sit down with you, have that conversation, ultimately make sure that the Air Force is going to be the best path for you going forward. And if it is, then we kind of talk about the opportunities that we have there for you. So the best way to get in contact with your local Air Force recruiter is we've came up with an app called the Aim High app, and you can download it on your smartphone. And once you've downloaded this app, you can get in contact with any local recruiter. So it's best to find someone that's near you in your area that you live, because there's a lot of meetings that we have to do and a lot of paperwork. And so it's just more convenient if you find that nearest local recruiter, or maybe if you've had a friend or family member who's worked with a recruiter in the past, go to them, kind of whatever you feel comfortable. But that first step is get on that Aim High app, look us up online and get in contact with your nearest local recruiter and get the conversation started.
Talk about some of the benefits of joining the military. My brother is in the military, so he's, of course, gotten his education paid for. His children will have part of their education paid for. He's been in it for a very long time now. But give people a sense of what kind of opportunities that they can have if they do, in fact, join the military.
So I'm glad you brought up education, because I would say a majority of the folks coming into the Air Force are looking to carry on their post-education. And we're really big components on, continuing their education. The more schooling you can do, the better you're going to make our organization at the end of the day. So what we do for education is a couple different things. We offer what is called a post-9/11 GI Bill. In return for working for the Air Force for 4 years, we're going to go ahead and pay for your 4 years of college, and we're going to also pay for your housing, which is huge, right? So you don't have to live in the college dorms. You're going to be able to get an apartment off campus, and then we're also going to pay for all your books. During the entire time that you're working for the Air Force, we're also going to give you tuition assistance, and that's going to help allow you to pay for some of that additional college that you want to take on. But the big thing is that a lot of people don't know is the Air Force is a degree granting institution, and what that means is every job that we hire for in the United States Air Force is going to count towards a college degree, right? So I tell a lot of students, you can take the traditional route of going to college and paying that university for your education and then trying to seek employment afterwards, right? Well, how about you come work for the United States Air Force? Instead, we'll pay you to go to school. You'll get your education. You'll be on track to start your, working towards an associate's degree with us. And then doors will open and you can kind of figure out where you want to take it from there. So.
Well, I mean, that sounds like a pretty good deal if you ask me. I mean, and you had me at pay for education and we'll pay you to go to school and those kinds of things. But can you kind of talk about what are the kinds of job opportunities? I mean, there's a lot of benefits, but there's also a lot of skills that you can learn by being in the military.
So whenever I'm talking to someone, I kind of find out what their interests or hobbies are. The Air Force has over 130 different career fields that you can choose from. So I really believe there's something there for everyone, right? Whether it's you want to get into a mechanic position, you want to learn electronics, you want to get into a trade, maybe HVAC, plumbing, electrician, engineer. Really, we could go on and on for hours. We have every type of job. So what it comes down to is doing well on a test, just like you have to take a test to get into most universities, your ACTs or your SATs. We have a test called the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test. And the better that you can perform on this test, the more job opportunities we can potentially offer you. So anyone I talk to, I tell them how important it is to do well on that test and really study for that test.
That's really key.
Yep.
Okay, so let's say you do enlist. What's next? What's the first step? Do they go off to basic training?
Yes.
Okay.
So first step is you sit down with your local Air Force recruiter. We'll do the basic application. As long as everything gets approved, the next step is sending you off to San Antonio, Texas, Lackland Air Force Base. That's where everyone goes for basic military training. It's kind of where you're going to learn the key fundamentals of what it takes to be enlisted in the United States Air Force. So after that step, it's kind of neat. Once you make it to graduation, you invite 6 friends and family to come out there and see you in the first time in a Air Force uniform. And then after your friends and family come out and see you, you move on to technical school. And the Air Force, we have schools that can kind of be ranging from 1 to 3 months all the way up to 6 months and then up to a year. It depends on the complexity of the job that you decide to go with. So that's that second phase, and that's kind of learning the nuts and bolts, how to kind of do your job. And then once you've transitioned from school, that's where you get your first duty location. And that could be a little nerve-wracking, right? So you're in school that first week and your instructors say, hey, open up your email. You got an assignment. Maybe you're going to Japan or Germany or Hawaii if you get a good base location, right? But we have bases throughout the whole United States. So that's the big adventure of it is, right? Hey, I've maybe lived in my hometown my entire life. The Air Force can give me a unique opportunity to go live abroad and kind of get paid to travel and work. And so that's kind of what we can offer.
Here with Staff Sergeant Jeff Hanks from the Air Force Recruiting Service. That sound that you might have heard earlier was the FA-18 Hornet, the U.S. Navy FA-18 Hornet. That's the sound of freedom that you referenced earlier.
Yes, it is. I'm watching that. I will tell you, this isn't smell-o-vision, but you could smell the jet fuel wafting through the air. Is that thing? I mean, that was, not even 100 feet away. So it's incredible to see so up close.
Yeah, and so, as you talk with all kinds of different people who are interested in the Air Force, do you find that there's a lot of misconceptions about service in the Air Force? Like, am I on duty 24/7? Am I going to have to go to war? Like, do you get a lot of those kinds of conversations?
Yes.
And what do you say?
So often it's a lot of times the parents, they're obviously concerned with their son or daughter enlisting and the potential to, see war and things like that. For us in the Air Force, we're more of a support agency. So I'm not hiring anyone to go fight infantry on the front lines or anything like that, right? So when it comes to that, it's helping the Army, helping the Navy, helping the Marines. They need to get their equipment overseas, and the Air Force has the assets to be able to do that, right? So typically that's what we're hiring for, so it eases a lot of parents' minds. Yes, when you wear this uniform, you are on duty 24/7. You're representing the United States Air Force, but we work typical 40-hour work weeks, just like normal people do in the civilian sector. So it's typically you work your normal work duty hours, and then you're off and enjoying time. And hopefully, when you're having that time off, you're traveling and doing exciting things in the local community that you're stationed at. Right?
What kind of questions do you get? I imagine it's things like, do I have to cut my hair? I'm sure that's fair. One of them.
Definitely do. And it for guys, you get your head shaved when you're in boot camp, so that's kind of a big thing.
But it grows back.
Yeah, for me, I'm bald, so it doesn't have a head shave.
There's always an exception.
Yeah. But no, it wasn't the Air Force that did this, right? It's just the genetics. But
good to point that out.
Yeah. But no, that's pretty much most of people's concerns. The big one is leaving home, right?
Yeah.
That's the commitment, right? So there are contracts with working with us. It's for 6 years. And then the leaving the home, a lot of people do want to get out of their parents' house and kind of get the opportunity to start their young adulthood and get into a career path.
Are there physical requirements? Do you have to be in really good shape?
You do. We look at your height and weight. We check you out medically. So there's a lot of steps involved with getting someone fully qualified. It's not like we can just accept everyone. So that's the job as the recruiters, to make sure we check all their qualification statuses and kind of help them through that whole process. But yeah, the main thing is leaving friends and family, right? Your loved ones. You may not see them every weekend like you typically could go to like a cookout, but we do offer 30 paid vacation days every year. And that's huge, right? A lot of companies out there could maybe only give you 2 weeks off, paid time vacation, and we're doubling that. So that kind of helps ease that burden of them leaving home. And then the other thing too is, when you're in the Air Force, you're away from your loved ones, and so you rely heavily on the people you work with, and you kind of build these bonds where it's just the person working next to you is probably more than just a coworker, right? They sometimes become more like family in those scenarios.
I was going to say that. I mentioned that. I told you my brother is in the military, and those men and women that he serves with are his family.
Right. Yep, the friends I've made and the relationships I've made, those are going to last a lifetime.
Yep.
So
I did want to point out, too, you kind of mentioned about the infantry, but there is special warfare in the Air Force. There are special recruiters just for special warfare, if my understanding is correct.
That's correct.
And maybe some of the physical standards are different, but there's an opportunity to excel there, and the Air Force definitely is interested in talking to you as well.
Right. So any athletes out there that think they could be a good candidate for our special warfare program, we're always looking for people for that, and that program is designed to test you mentally and physically. It's pretty intense, and we're always looking.
When
There's
is
a lot
it exactly?
So special warfare, we have a pararescuemen. They're kind of like a combat medic, and they can go into austere locations and kind of bring someone home on their worst day back to their loved ones, right? So that's the main one, but Yeah, if you're interested in that, find a local recruiter for special warfare and get your answers, some questions answered. They do hold tryouts, initial fitness tests where you have to go out and perform and swim and run and meet these development standards to kind of be an eligible candidate for that. But that's that first step, meeting with that special warfare recruiter as well.
So really what I'm hearing is there truly is something for everyone in the United States Air Force. And I know you're in the United States Air Force, but there's also opportunities in the United States Space Force.
Correct. Space Force, it's a new branch, and they have a few base locations, but a lot of things they do in there is top secret. So that's a big thing. Is I tell a lot of folks, hey, you're 18 years old, you could walk into my office and I could potentially hire you for a job where you're getting a top secret security clearance, right? You can't really find that in a lot of local jobs.
Right.
The things that we can provide to you, the credentials, it can set you up for a lifetime, whether it's with the United States Air Force for a 20-year career, or you feel like you want to transition out and go seek employment other opportunities out there, right? So just like for air traffic control, if I hire someone from high school to come in and do air traffic control, those certifications are fully qualified to where they could leave the United States Air Force and go do air traffic control at the local Salt Lake City Airport.
Right, so they can transition easily into another career.
And that's what we tell everyone. It's like you're looking for a job, you want to find something that is transferable to the civilian sector, right? Because you may not want to do a 20-year career at the Air Force. And so I'd say 80% of the jobs that we have, you can go find employment elsewhere if you need to do that, right? So that's huge. And some of the good jobs that I like to talk to people about are our cybersecurity jobs, because, right now a lot of companies are needing that, and that's a job that's going to translate well. But when I tell you we do everything, we have firefighters, we have police officers, we have medical jobs, mechanical jobs. You name it, we can kind of really find something for everyone in the United States Air Force. So.
Yeah, and so I need you to talk to my daughter, Davina. She's watching the broadcast. She said, give me a shout-out, and I wanted to text her back and say, well, why don't you talk to Sergeant Hanks and consider a career in the United States Air Force? You've got something for her, I think.
And that's all it is meeting with your local recruiter, sitting down, talking it out, and then, weighing the pros and the cons, and, hey, is this going to be the best fit for you? And often it really is the best fit for a lot of folks. So.
Am I too old to be recorded?
Is it working? The 41. Pitch is working.
41. Yeah, I'm too old. All right.
So can you tell us one more time, again, how can somebody find out more information about the Air Force? You mentioned the Aim High phone app, but contacting your local recruiter.
Yep. Use that Aim High app and look and find your local recruiter. Also, you can find us all online. You search us, nearest local Air Force recruiter, and it should bring up your nearest recruiter. And you can contact us via email, text, through the app, whatever is most convenient for getting a hold of one of us.
Well, Staff Sergeant Hanks, we certainly appreciate your time.
Yes, it was so fun talking to you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Hey, you guys have a great day. Thank you.
All right, we're going to send it back out to Air Show Center. I think Tora is about to start.
We start to have fun with gasoline and dynamite. Now the min radius turn, pulling an awesome 6 Gs and sustaining that 6 G around the entire min radius turn. Accelerates away while climbing for the next maneuver. Now, you watch for the half Cuban 8. You know that's 5/8 of a loop. He'll do a simulated 45-degree diving attack to the ground targets. 7.62 millimeter minigun, or a big load of bombs and rockets to neutralize the enemy position. Once the attack is complete, watch Mark immediately pull 4 times the force of gravity, extend into the loop, and go into the vertical diving attack where the Dragonfly could deliver bombs accurately. Throughout the course of the years, Mark Peterson, our pilot, has flown performances in a classic P-51 Mustang, a World War II Top Gun aircraft, and a series of other jet aircraft, But this one is a joy to me. I love all of our performers, but getting something you get to see that you don't see very often to see perform. Airplane did very well in Vietnam. That was what it was designed for. The South Vietnam Air Force had great success with this aircraft. All right, smoke them if you got them. That's what we say. Ground attack. Now Mark Peterson coming back in very rapidly will execute the 4-point roll. You great spectators know what that's all about. Every 90 degrees, he'll stop the airplane. Nose goes up, stop, 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 go. All right, an explanation about the smoke rings. They are mini tornadoes. That is what's coming off the wingtip of that airplane or others. Here you can see it, but in normal conditions you cannot see what the turbulence or the wingtip vortices are doing behind an airplane. And by the way, it doesn't have to be an airliner or transport military aircraft inside. Belly pass showing you the business end with all the bombs, rockets. Next, Mark will slow the A-37 down. He'll target about 140 miles an hour, showing you the slow speed capability. It's got what we call a fat, high-lift wing. It can carry up to 8,000 pounds underneath the wings. It can maneuver in small areas. Now, at show center, Mark will push the power up, and you'll see and hear just how much power from minimum speed the Dragonfly has.
Gonna go ahead and roll the truck in on that fire. Take it away.
Low and to your right, and watch what the wingtip vortices are doing to the smoke well behind the aircraft. Mini tornadoes, horizontal tornadoes. From minimum speed, the high angle of attack, into the high performance climb. So capable was the Cessna Dragonfly, it could lift 125% of its empty weight in fuel and in weapons. Made the A-37 a very versatile aircraft in combat operations. All our air show pilots love the sun. Look at the altitude on that loop as well, showing you the performance of this aircraft.
First good.
Last pass. All right, last pass over your right shoulder. The A-37. conversation with our pilots setting up behind us now. When it comes to warbirds, the owners, the civilian owners, will tell you, no, don't call me an owner. I am just a temporary steward of these national treasures. Someday I'll pass it on to somebody else, and they can continue the tradition of showing the accomplishments of the men and women who designed, built, and flew these aircraft to victory. World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War, and up to current status. 6,000 hours of flight time has Mark Peterson, soloed at the legal age of 16, private pilot's license at the age of 17, not only flying the P-51 Mustang, but the Lockheed F-104 as well. Okay. Mark Peterson rolling out, low and to your left. He's going to do a parade pass in front of the great spectators as well. Now, from the world of warbird aircraft, we're going back to the world of air shows. The multiple award-winning Skip Stewart in an airplane he has modified called Prometheus. You can follow Skip on Facebook at Skip Stewart Air Shows, and on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Well, Skip, like a lot of hot rodders back in the day, bought a stock airplane, a biplane, and then did the hot rod treatment. He chopped, he channeled it, he lowered it, he built a big engine for it. He put a flame paint job on the front of the aircraft like we used to do in our hot rods. Checkerboard by the tail. And he named the aircraft Prometheus, meaning forethought. Like a lot of our air show pilots, Skip grew up flying radio control aircraft, which, believe it or not, hone your skills for getting into the real thing. We're going to have a couple of aircraft taking off now that are going to go out and hold to come back and fly their routines.
Sorry, he's about to do the demo.
Okay. behalf of the United States Navy, Naval Air Station Lemoore, Commander Strike Fighter Wing Pacific, and the commanding officer of Strike Fighter Squadron 122, we're proud to present the West Coast FAA Super Hornet flight demonstration.
This is finishing up the half Cuban 8.
Now out of the half Cuban 8 maneuver.
This is the next maneuver.
The Super Hornet is unique in its ability to operate at slow speeds and high angles of attack. The superior flight control computers allow the pilot to position the aircraft exactly where he means to and when he needs to. You will observe that is how the aircraft rotates 180 degrees while nearly in a flat attitude, appropriately named the flat pirouette.
And this will be next coming up.
The Super Hornet's engines produce over 44,000 pounds of thrust in full afterburner. This allows the aircraft to sustain 8 times the force of gravity in a very tight turn radius. Whether in a dogfight or avoiding surface-to-air missiles, the ability of the Super Hornet to turn in tight spaces gives it a tremendous tactical advantage. Entering from the left, rolling into a 90-degree angle of bank to demonstrate the Super Hornet's minimum radius turn, followed by a tail stand.
He's going to do the tail stand next and then set up for the high-speed pass after that.
Mac low pab now setting up for the high-speed pass. During this maneuver, the aircraft will approach you at nearly the speed of sound, or Mach 1, demonstrating the use of speed to surprise the enemy. You may notice the white shot cone of vapor coming off the wing tips, a visual indicator of Mach 1. Keep in mind, the speed at which the aircraft is flying today is only half of the aircraft's maximum speed. And they add it here as fast as they can legally fly today. Over the top of the mountain on your right, coming downhill. Get ready, it's going to happen fast. Eyes and cameras to the ready. Ladies and gentlemen, the Super Hornet high speed pass.
Climb up, and then he'll, on the backside, this will be the dive from the straight.
Quickly reposition the jet back to Earth to get in position for the next maneuver.
The hot pass isn't in here. They improvise that, so you don't have to say anything for that.
They'll be selecting afterburner as the jet approaches show center. They'll rapidly reposition the nose 4 times, flying a square path through the sky.
Rick, hot pass?
Hot pass.
And by the way, if I have a preference, this is my favorite. The box in the sky.
Mr. Bass. Yeah, we had a misfire.
That's okay.
Can you repair it? Scrape that cat by the other one. We'll see if we can repair it.
Okay, yeah, no worries.
The next maneuver is an air crew favorite. It's called the Ricardo, affectionately named after a pilot who despised performing it. As the Rhino approaches from your right, they'll accelerate to 450 miles an hour. Altitude will be 500 feet. They'll roll the aircraft inverted, reduce the power to idle, and hold level altitude.
My phone's not working. Is there anything on the sheet line?
From your right, ladies and gentlemen, the inverted Whisper Pass.
Setting up for this next is just going to roll in order, so as in between each maneuver you can just start reading the next one. There's no specific timing, but
Now we're setting up for the high alpha pass. This maneuver will showcase the incredible slow speed handling characteristics of the Super Hornet. When in a tight dogfight during air-to-air combat, the aircraft with the ability to fly the slowest gains the advantage, as the adversary may be forced out in front of the fighter, thus becoming defensive. Few aircraft in the world remain safely maneuverable at this high nose attitude at such a slow speed. With two digital control computers aiding the aircrew, the 40,000-pound Super Hornet remains completely controllable at speeds less than 100 miles per hour. The Super Hornet High Alpha Pass. Exiting the high alpha pass in maximum afterburner, they'll roll a jet inverted and execute the split S to reposition for the next maneuver.
sweet. Did the split S and then the split S with the
As the Rhino approaches from the right, the air crew will demonstrate the incredible pitch authority of the Super Hornet, akin to drifting a car. At show center, they will abruptly pull away from the crowd, showcasing the Rhino's ability to change direction quickly.
Should be either one of the two. I'm not really sure. Let's see.
The aircrew now setting up for the touch and go landing. As they circle the land, they will ensure the gear locks into the down position and that the flaps are fully extended. That will provide enhanced lift at slower speeds to require for a slow landing. At sea, they would also drop the tail hook when preparing to land aboard an aircraft carrier. Once lined up with a runway or in the groove, the aircraft will slow to 8.1 degrees angle of attack. This on-speed AOA correctly positions the aircraft tail hook to engage the arresting wire aboard the aircraft carrier.